Good morning, everybody. Bear with me just a minute. I am trying to shed some light on the subject here. All right. We'll get started in just a minute with a tangle that I really like a lot called Pokeleaf. There we go. I apologize that my light's not great today. I have an issue with my overhead light. So I'm kind of winging it a little bit this weekend until they come in and fix it. I would just change the bulbs myself because I really think that's all it is. But I have about 11-foot ceilings and I'm 5 feet tall, so even standing on things, I can't quite pull it off. So I have some little lights here, and I think I have enough light that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. I was checking in on my video, and it looks like it's a little pixelated. Is it pixelated for you, or is it just my connection? Everybody good? All right. So then, if that's the case, I am going to get started. So, Pokeleaf is one of my favorites. I don't use it as often as I like, mainly because I tend to really get lost in it, and it's one of those patterns that a lot of times I can use and I don't think about what I'm doing. So it's, in many ways, it's like flux for me. It tends to be a mac and cheese tangle, and I tend to just kind of go with it. And in my tangle practice, I really try to use a lot of tangles that I have to think about, because it lets me turn my mind off, and it lets me embrace that whole Zentangle practice. But sometimes, especially if I'm drawing something organic, I want it to have that flow and everything. So it's nice to play with patterns that you maybe haven't done in different ways before. I started this series after I talked to a friend who mentioned that one of the things that she struggled with when she was first tangling, and I know that it was a thing for me as well, we learn how to draw a tangle, and then we always draw it the same way, right? So maybe you maybe you learn to draw poke root the way I'm going to draw it right now. And I'm going to draw this fairly big today because I have a couple other variations that I want to show you. You can draw it larger, you can draw it smaller. So we're going to draw that one line, we're going to aura it, and then we're going to put like a little hat or like a smiley face on it, like an upside down smiley face. And then I always turn my tile and I create half of a heart and then half of a heart coming off the other side, right? So we end up with this kind of leafy shape that that has it's kind of like a mushroom, and a leaf had a baby. Okay, and then using the hollow bomb method to go behind, I can layer in a whole bunch of these, right? And you can make them all different sizes. cute little ones. They can go in all different directions. If you make them big, they'll fill up a tile very quickly. Okay. So that's how you do the basic poke leaf shape. I'm going to do it again on this side. So it's one line, an aura of that line, your upside down smiley face, turn the tile, and I find that by turning the tile I get a much crisper, much neater poke leaf than I do if I just kind of wing it the other way, right? So something else that's fun, if I wanted to, and I'm just going to show you here before I move on to the next tile where I do a couple other things, is if I was to, in my mind, continue this line, right? And this line. And I make my smiley face, right? And I bring them in. I can actually create like a vine. Of poke leaf. Okay, so that's just a little something there. For shading these, I add some graphite under my little upside down smiley face. I could call it a frown, but that doesn't seem very happy. And I like to be happy. Right? So then I smudge it using my tortillon or my finger or a Q-tip, whatever you have. I might have laid this on a little darker than I meant to, but that's okay. Okay, so you can see where that kind of gives you that little bit of a pop there. And then I'm going to shade the edge the way I would any round shape to kind of give it a little bit of dimension. Anybody play with poke leaf a lot? Is this anybody's mac and cheese tangle? Okay. All right, so I want to talk just about a couple of these tiles that I did before because I could recreate them on camera, but there's so many different ways to show you how to use this tangle that I don't have to show you. I just showed you how to draw it, so now I can show you a couple different things I did with it. So with this one, I kind of like a string, I did a spiral, and then I just spiraled my poke leaf in, and I really kind of like the way this one turned out. It went in a different direction that I'd planned, but I was really happy with it overall. I think that it's kind of got fairly dynamic. It's got a lot of motion to it. By going in and adding some shading where they overlap, it gave it a lot more depth. And using the black in my negative space here really kind of makes it pop off the page. Okay. This one, I created a grid, and I don't actually remember the name of this tangle. I want to say that this is part of a tangle that Chris Letourneau's daughter Alexa made, and I use it a lot, kind of almost like a window to draw things behind. So for me, this one was fun. I did just a couple really big poke leaves. And I find that one of the things that I do most often that really inhibits my tangling is forcing myself to draw my tangles all the same size, right? So with that, with that in mind, I encourage you to play with the different sizes as you tangle. To try something that you maybe draw medium, or you draw it really tiny, or you usually draw it really big, to try and do it in a different way, okay? And then this one, I used a bigger, fatter pen, and I made them squashy, and I made them fat, And then I put patterns in my tangle. So I put patterns in my patterns. And this looks like a little gnome or fairy garden to me. And I think that that's really fun for doing kind of cool different things. I did this cool class. I actually only sort of remember taking the class because it was while my son was in the hospital. But I did this, this Tangled Houses class. And I will link to the creator's website after the live. But when I was doing these, I kept thinking, oh, I could make a whole little village, and I could incorporate these kind of little Pokeleaves into my village, because I feel like that's the kind of world that was made in those, along with those little houses. So I feel like that would be a cool little garden. All right, so those are the ones that I've done already. I want to switch this up a little bit, and I'm going to draw my Pokeleaf in a couple different ways. So those were kind of short and squat, and now I'm going to do them in a more delicate kind of way. So I'm going to create a long stroke, and I'm making it kind of curvy, okay? And then I'm auraing that, and I'm making it skinny because I want to. Okay, you can make fat stems on these or skinny stems. And then I'm gonna make my little smile. I'm gonna turn it, and then I'm gonna make a very long, skinny swirl, and I'm gonna put a little dot on the end. Okay, like a little ball. And then I'm gonna bring that in, okay? So you can see that already has a very different look. I'm going to use this line that's already there, and I'm gonna aura that. And then I'm gonna come off this way, right? And then I'm going to kind of pick this up here, and I'm gonna bring this over here so that I have kind of a swoopy little thing going on there. I'm gonna add my little smile. I'm gonna turn my tile. Again, I'm gonna make a swoopy and then bring it in. Great. I'm gonna do a third here. Again, already using this line as if it were a line that I had just drawn. I'm gonna hollow bar that and come over here, pick this up, finish out my aura. These, when I draw them certain ways, these kind of remind me of bleeding heart flowers, which I think are just lovely. Okay, so I'm going past my border because I was just going to tuck it behind, but I kind of lose it there. Okay, so I'm going to leave a little bit of space. I'm going to draw another swooshy line, kind of like a little shepherd's hook. Okay, so there's a start for another type of organic direction to go with it, right? So I would add some shading again right here. I would add a little bit of shading here where they crisscross. Maybe a little bit here just because of the way that they kind of came together. And then I soften my graphite. Okay. I find that this is a really forgiving tangle, and you don't have to be too fussy with it. You don't have to be really precious with your lines or just what you're doing. That it's a fun one to kind of take in different directions. So if I were to build this out and I wanted to make it more of a garden, maybe I'd add some flux to it. Again, flux being my mac and cheese tangle. I tend to do that one a lot. Maybe you wanted to add even in some other Pokeleafs in, you know, a little bit different style so that you can have several adaptations of this all in one. Okay. Maybe you want to add some little fine stripes in your stems. Again, to add more of a kind of a little bit of whimsy to that. Make it look kind of fanciful and fun. Okay. All right. So that's one way of doing it. Let's see. I'm going to run out of tiles today because I have so many ideas with this one. So what I'm going to do for this one is I am actually going to make two different, well, it's going to be one way of doing this, but I'm going to do it in two steps. I'm going to show you it as a border, but I'm also going to show it to you in a style that my daughter actually refers to as the stabby way of drawing this, which is kind of funny. So we're going to do it the same way. So I'm going to make my two little parallel lines, but now instead of making an actual frown or a upside down smile, I'm going to make a straight line. Okay? And now when I turn this, I'm going to think of angles. Okay? So I'm still making that heart shape, but now it's a little more geometric. Okay? So I'm going to kind of mentally carry these lines through, decide where I want to go with it. Again. Okay. And as you can see, it's the same tangle. I'm just using different style strokes. And by changing it up from rounder and softer, I'm getting a very different look. Okay. I would shade that pretty much the same way, not having a curve where everything comes together, where it's a straight line. I'm just going to pay a little more attention when I lay down my graphite to how I do that. Okay, and you could, let's see, you could branch them off here too. So I've got one going in this direction, and my little line comes up here. Maybe I want to go like this, right? And this one's just going to go right off the page. This one, I'm going to kind of bring this in a little bit so that I go back in the direction I really wanted it to. And you could do this with round. You could do this with short, squashy ones. You could do this with very loopy, delicate, stretched out ones. I just wanted to show this to you in a stabby version. And I think she calls it that because they look sharp. And angular. She may also call them that because I find that my mood changes, or I can tell what my mood is based on the way that I'm drawing things. And anytime I am drawing something with a lot of angles, it's usually because I'm not in a great mood. So maybe it's maybe she's referring to my mood. I don't know. We'll pretend it's because of the shape of the tangle. These are fun if maybe you were drawing some crystals, or you have a very geometric piece, maybe some type of New Age garden. Don't know. I don't know when I started drawing them like this, but I think it's kind of a neat variation, and one I haven't seen a lot of other people do. So my lines actually will meet nicely at this little corner. Okay. So you get one look by doing it that way. And then you can go in if you want to. You know, there's nothing wrong with going in and adding some detail work. A lot of times, the beauty that comes from all of this is in these little tiny details. You know, like this one looked really cool, but it didn't really pop off the page until I had added all that blackness in, that really rich, dynamic color change is really what makes it pop. Sometimes adding in, you know, little teeny tiny tipple around something, or going in and like I'm doing here, adding a tiny aura around my edge makes all the difference in really making it stand out. The purpose of me doing all these little lives on Saturday mornings, I had to think, yes, it is Saturday, time is meaningless, but is because I really wanted to kind of revisit some of the tangles that we almost don't think about. You know, I have some new students too, and that's always fun, who are looking for new patterns and things like that. But I really like to sometimes go back and force myself to play with a tangle that I use all the time, but maybe in a new way. It keeps things a little fresh. I know that I am guilty of often using the same things over and over and over again. You know, while you can make art for 100 years using just a couple tangles, sometimes it's nice to get out of your rut. And sometimes going back to things that we've used before and trying them in a new way lets you look at other things in a new way too. So one of my favorite books for tangling is actually, well, it's over there. It's Pattern Play by Sonia Yancer and Chris Letourneau, because they talk about that so much. They talk about taking patterns and mixing them up in different ways. Okay, so now I'm going to shade this. And I'll play with these over the week, and I will add other tangles, or maybe I'll play with them later. It depends on what I feel like, and I'll add some to these, and then I'll post them as a comment in the live so you can see, you know, what they look like when I've added other tangles or I have finished them. And sometimes I just, you know, I would do something like this and I might even call it done. I'll have to see how it goes. Does anyone have a tangle that you find that you get stuck on a lot? That you just kind of always do the same way and you never think outside the box with it? I do it a lot. I tend to get stuck. Some of my favorites especially. I like this border. I think it's kind of fun. I think that it would look really cool if I were to go in and add something like some print-ons to kind of cushion that sharpness. I like to mix up my round and my more angular tangles. So for me, this one was fun to do in an angular when it's normally rounded. But you can see how just adding in another tangle once again takes it and changes it into a different direction. Anti-dots, yes. That's another one. You know, something about the way I draw that one reminds me of Flux. And Flux I draw all the time the same way because I love it. And I love the look. And I love the way that it looks when it's all done. But I definitely am guilty of too much of a good thing sometimes. I would have to think about anti-dots. I'm sure there is a way to really mix it up and change it into some fun things. And maybe I have a couple other ones planned out, but I'm going to do this for the next few months at the very least, because there's so many tangles that we do this with that often get forgotten. You know, we have a bunch of cool tangles in the just in the official Zentangle repertoire that we don't really think about because they don't get used a lot. And I don't know why. It just kind of happens. We all have our different tastes and our favorite tangles, although it often happens that many of us have similar ones. And I don't know if they're just more fun to draw or if it's because they look prettier drawn in their official, I say that in quotes, I don't know if you could see my air quotes, you know, in the official way, but there's really no wrong way to draw stuff, right? So you can take it and you can go in whatever direction you want to. This kind of looks almost steampunky to me, and maybe that's the direction I'll take it in when I finish it up. So this is the series that I've done so far. I did Rain, I've done Mirror, and now I've played with Pokeleaf. And I wanted to kind of layer these so you can see how I changed up the actual steps. I still did the same steps, I just did them in slightly different order because I wanted to layer them. So I was kind of using a little bit of the hollow bomb method there, and I wasn't quite sure what I was doing with it yet, so I wanted to, you know, you can go in and you can add some rounding to these little areas, and rounding is just exactly what it sounds like. It's, you know, filling in these little sections with some dark. And it will help it really pop. All right. So I have a tendency, I always say that this is going to be 15 minutes, and it's usually longer than that. And I have no idea what time it is because time is meaningless. And days of the week are just pretend, at least right now. But I wanted to give you these to play with and to kind of enjoy today. And I hope that you think of some new ways to maybe use this tangle, or maybe it sparked an idea for a different way for you to try another tangle. And I would love to see what you make. You can always email me, you can always post them on my page, you can message me, send me pictures, I don't know, whatever you'd like. But I am happy that you came and hung out with me on Saturday morning. Well, I drink tea and you drink coffee or tea or mimosas. I don't know, maybe you're having more fun than me. But I look forward to seeing you guys online and seeing what you've done. Have a great day.